So, what do we learn this week about Sram'Os in Modern? And I have to say, the deck is awesome. So, it's definitely a good news, bad news situation, and our matches did a really great job of showing both the good and the bad of the deck, but the turn 2, turn 3 kill rate is super high. It's really easy and consistent to go off with this deck. We killed our opponent in the first 3 turns of the game a really high percentage of the time. Probably higher than any other deck in Modern. Like, it was that good. So that is awesome. And the deck was much more resilient than I thought. Like, going into it, I kind of was thinking, oh, we need to wait and try to combo off when we know we can win the game. But that's not really the case. It seemed like it was perfectly fine to run a Pure Steel Paladin out there, or a Sram, on turn 2, do a little mini combo where we cast whatever O's we have in our hand, draw some cards. Even if our opponent untaps and kills our Sram or Pure Steel, because we draw those cards, we probably found a retract, we probably found more Srams, more Pure Steels, and then we just do it again on turn 3, and then we're very likely to win, because we only need a single Mox Opal then to be able to have 2 Srams or Pure Steels, and once we get 2 Srams or Pure Steels, it's really unlikely that this deck is going to fizzle. Very, very unlikely. So I was really amazed by that. I was amazed by how consistently we were able to win through removal, win through mulligans. Pretty much, if our opponent doesn't have it, we are almost certainly going to win the game in the first 2 or 3 turns. And even if our opponent has 1 discard or removal spell, we are often able to fight through that and still win. They take a retract, they take a Pure Steel or something, and we're still able to combo off and win, because our deck can go from nothing to I win the game so easily. We're always like a draw step away from winning the game, which is really awesome with this deck. We mulled to 5 one game, and still we just drew a Pure Steel or a Sram, I don't remember which it was, and just won the game. It was that simple on like turn 2 or turn 3. So that's the awesome aspect of the deck. But then, as you saw in our later 2 matches, there are some problems. We do occasionally lose to ourselves. For example, the green-white deck, we kind of just lost to ourselves one game, never found a Pure Steel, and did nothing and lost. Then, later in that match, our opponent had double Path to Exile. And sometimes that's going to happen. We play a Sram, gets Path. We play another Sram or Pure Steel, that gets Path. And then we might not find the third one and we lose. The last match against Mardu Nahiri was another great example of how things can go wrong. Like, we crushed in game 1. Game 2, we got hit by just multiple discard spells, thought seizes, removal spells, and it was just too much hate to fight through, with our opponent picking apart our hand, killing our stuff. So the deck is beatable, but it puts the opponent under incredible amount of pressure. Like, maybe the best comparison is sort of the modern version of Belcher, because it really just puts your opponent to the test on turn 2, on turn 3 at the latest. And it says, like, if you don't have an answer, you're going to lose right here. And if you do have an answer, there's still a chance you're going to lose in the future. That's one of the advantages, I think, over this deck compared to Belcher or something. When they put someone to the test, you're emptying your entire hand first. So if your opponent has a Force of Will on your Belcher after you played all your rituals and stuff, it's really, really hard to rebuild. With this deck, your first spell is your Pure Steel or Sram. So even if the opponent does have an answer, you still got all your O's in your hands, maybe some other pieces, and you're able to still go off the next turn, potentially, if you can find another Sram or Pure Steel. So that's kind of how I see this deck. It's really a put the opponent to the test deck, and it was awesome to play. It was so much fun to play. I definitely recommend giving it a shot. Unfortunately, it is a bit expensive, mostly because of the Mox Opals, but the mana base to some extent too. While there is a reason for the split of fetch lands, having 2/2/2/2, you can definitely play all Khans fetches and be fine with that. There's some like weird fringe upside with like Pithing Needle and stuff, so technically it's best to play the split of fetches, but you can definitely not lose many percentage points by just playing all the cheapest fetch land, because you're never searching out basic islands anyway, so you could just play 4 Windswept Teeth or whatever, maybe a couple of Flooded Strands, whatever Khans fetch you want, and that's fine, because you only have 2 plains and 2 Hallowed Fountains as searchable targets. But I think it was really good, and I don't really have any huge suggestions for improvements, although I did want to mention one thing that is happening. We just saw a huge spike in Chalice of the the Void this week, in part because Eldrazi and Tron decks are really popular and people are playing more main deck Chalices. Also, in part because it's super good against this deck. If an opponent plays a Chalice of the Void on 0, we're going to have a really difficult time winning. Almost impossible, really, because we can't get the red mana we need with Mox Opal for our Grape Shots. We have some sideboard answers, but still, just that is a really devastating card against us. One thing I've seen some people do is use Monastery Mentor as kind of a hoser for that plan, because even if all of your O's are getting countered by Chalice, you're still getting the token from Mentor, and because you're casting a spell triggering Prowess, so that allows you to go wide with Bunk tokens and beat down and win that way, even through a Chalice of the Void. So I think maybe the newest version of this deck probably has some amount of Monastery Mentor somewhere to be able to deal with Chalice of the Void in specific. So anyway, this deck is awesome. I had a ton of fun playing it. While it does lose to itself sometime, it can scoop to hate like Chalice, tons of Thought Seizes and Inquisitions, even a lot of targeted removal. It was more resilient than I thought it would be. We don't just lose to our first Pure Stealer Sram getting killed. It is just super awesome. Like, if you want to kill your opponent on turn 2, on turn 3 in Modern, this is the way to do it, and it's a ton of fun. So anyway, that's our Much Abrew for this week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.